Much for taking the time to come out in solidarity with some of the weakest people in our city tonight. It is absolutely appalling what we have to confront today, but I'm so glad that we have so much support behind us as we take on this fight. I've only been a Member of Parliament in this city for a year, but in the year I've served as a Member of Parliament, it's been a very steep learning curve indeed, and having to see the experiences of what people have had to go through, some of the most vulnerable people in our city. I think it's easy for us when we're in our private lives, going about our business, to be totally ignorant of what actually the despair, the tragedy, the horror that people face only just down the street, maybe in the next building to us, and what that means and what we can do to try and help. One of the highlights, in fact, of being a Member of Parliament was actually bringing a young constituent of mine, Georgie Kakava, 10 years old, down to Parliament for a tour around because he deserved it. But after the year he has been through, just one example of the Tories' hostile environment policy writ large in my constituency, which is home to some of the largest number of asylum seekers in the city. His mother tragically died in February, and no sooner than she'd been buried had the Home Office threatened a 10-year-old child with deportation to a country he didn't know about. He has been in this city since he was 3 years old. He is now 10 years old. He speaks with the same accent as I do, and his friends are all at his local school in Springburn. What sort of perverse situation can we have in this country where a child like that can be threatened to be thrown out of a city that is his only home, the only place he knows, having lost his mother, been orphaned, his father killed by gangsters in Georgia, having to flee as a small infant to this country for sanctuary, and to be then threatened to be stripped with that basic dignity and security and cast out. I think that is absolutely disgusting. And it's one of the most appalling things I've ever encountered in my life, never mind serving as a Member of Parliament. And I hope that just opens your eyes to the reality of what we're facing in this Tory hostile environment policy as it's visited upon our city, as it is visited on every part of this country. We must resist it, and we must resist it in the strongest possible terms. It is clear that things have changed now with this latest development, and the fact that people are now going to be locked out of their homes. The only place of sanctuary and security they have. It's hard enough having fled from one of the most war-torn and disastrous situations on our planet, having faced severe trauma, mental health problems, to then come to this country seeking sanctuary and to go through a process which is geared up, as previous speakers have said, to entirely assume that they are lying, that they are malevolent, they have nefarious purposes, that they're here to sponge off of us, and then be faced with even the basic dignity of living in a basic accommodation, often slum conditions, being stripped away from them whilst they follow that process. How can we possibly countenance that situation? It's not the only case I've had to deal with. I've had another case of a family kept in limbo for 18 years, a family including 3 young children who were denied the opportunity to go to university, denied the opportunity to get a graduate job after going through a process of graduating with a first-class engineering degree, someone who's been denied the chance to go abroad. Imagine going to school with your school children, your school friends in a school, and then they're all going off in the summer holidays. You're not allowed to leave the country. You can never leave the country because you're trapped here in a process, a Kafkaesque process, a limbo, like purgatory for 18 years. That's the reality of what these people have been facing. And only when they went on hunger strike outside of the Home Office in Govan, where the Home Office finally provoked into action, and now they're being thankfully given permanent leave to remain in this country. But that's the reality of what it faces. Young Georgie was only given a 2-year stay, temporary stay, to complete his schooling after I had to raise it personally with the Prime Minister. What on earth is that all about? Why do I have to go to the Prime Minister to get this system sorted out in a one-off case? And for every case of a Georgie, there's probably 10 cases I've never heard about who have been disappeared out of the country with no one to speak out for them. That is the reality of what we face, and it is absolutely disgusting. And I hope you all understand the reality of what we're facing. We have to stand together, unity, and a unity of purpose tonight, as we have for 100 years in this city. We've talked about Mary Barber, and I have to say I've just been told tonight, in the last hour, of a case of a young mother terrified out of her wits in my constituency in Springburn with 2 young children, one of whom has a learning disability, who have been told in 7 days' time they will be kicked out of their basic accommodation in Springburn. That I've just been told about tonight. That is the reality of what this family are facing, living in terror, not only of terror being returned to their country, having to face a system that is geared up against them, but now the prospect of being turfed out onto the streets with nowhere to go with 2 young children. That is the reality of what we're facing. I just don't know what to say about that, as such as my disgust. But I want to say one thing. I've inspired and remember tonight 100 years ago when the women of this city, and united with other workers in this city, stood up against rapacious landlordism and exploitation and formed Mary Barbara's army to resist evictions and resist the landlordism that was pushing them out of their homes. And that's what we need to recapture tonight. When I think of that family tonight, and in 7 days' time if they do serve it, I want a sign above that door saying, and to paraphrase the old slogan, God help the eviction officer who enters that building, because we'll all be there to make sure that that does not happen. I swear to God it will not happen. And if there's anything I can do, I will be doing it. And I hope you'll all be there with all of us. We have a total unity of purpose. Only thing that dismays me tonight is the reality that not one of the Conservative and Tory politicians in this city or in Scotland have signed any formal letter or made any public expression of condemnation of this policy. Let us not divorce the reality of this. They have the power to stand up and resist what Sadi Javid is doing. Where are they, and where is their offer of resistance? They need to stand up. The majority the Tories have in Parliament is only 13, and there are 13 Scottish Tory MPs. Where are they? Where is the leadership? I don't want to make this too political, but we have to make that point. There are 13 there, and they should be standing up with us. That has to be called out, and we have to make that point. That the reality is they have the leadership and the opportunity to do it. I want to just say we will be doing everything we can in this city, the 7 members of Parliament, all of the councillors, all of the MSPs, with a unity of purpose to resist this disgusting attack on our fellow Glaswegians. They are our fellow Glaswegians. When you get children who speak with a Glaswegian accent, going to school with their school friends that they've known their whole lives, being threatened to be kicked out of our city to a country they don't know about, that disgusts me, and it should disgust everyone here. And I hope you'll all be standing with us as we tackle this scourge on our society. And let me just make it clear that if I am ever in a position where I can influence policy and government, this will be stopped on day one. If that happens, we will be resisting and ending the hostile environment policy on day one if I have anything to do with government. That is reality what we're doing here. Make it clear that we resist this in Glasgow is disgusted by what is going on. I had the opportunity to speak to the Chief Executive of Serco last night, Rupert Soames, brother of the Tory MP Nicholas Soames, who has the Compass contract for Glasgow. And he was telling me, well, do you know what? Serco are going above and beyond the call of duty. We should be grateful for what Serco is doing. They have given discretion. They have been more than benevolent in their dealings with these families. They have given them a stay of execution. They've let them stay. And actually, he was making the point that, no, these people have exhausted the asylum process. They've reached the end of the road, and that's why they need to go. The Home Office has withdrawn any financial support. The reality is they haven't reached the end of the road, because I've had numerous cases that came having had their appeals rejected, only to then have legal advice after consideration, which has then overturned it. And Georgia is just one example of that. That is the reality of it. They haven't reached the end of the road. There's so much more that they need. And to be denied the basic dignity of accommodation, whilst to consider their options, to be cast out onto the street. The idea that the 6th richest country in the world is casting anyone out into the street is appalling. But the idea that Serco think that they are going above and beyond the call of duty just shows how disgusting and appalling and perverse the system is. That system, it needs to be changed. I see the sign there saying change the system, not the locks. Well, it couldn't be truer a statement tonight here. The fact that Rupert Soames could actually come and defend that policy appalled me. I asked him, has there been an equality impact assessment being carried out? He said, no, there hadn't been an equality impact assessment carried out. He said, no, most of these guys are in their 20s, they're single males, they're not families. Well, tell that to the family that are terrified at the wits in Springburn tonight, with the mother with her 2 children about to be cast out. That was an unacceptable statement to make, given the context of where these people have come from, the trauma they've suffered, and the callousness with which they're now being treated. We have to resist this, and we have to say, what sort of corporate greed does that represent? And also, how on earth can the Home Office countenance this? Countenance a contract that allows people to be cast out into the streets of our city and dependent on charity to survive? That is disgusting in the 6th richest country in the world. And I want to say, on all those fronts, we must unite and we must resist by every means necessary. If it means physically going into those flats and denying the opportunity for them to be removed, that's what will have to happen. Because I've had enough of standing up in Parliament. I've had enough of standing up in Parliament, even to the Prime Minister, and making these points, because it falls on deaf ears time and time again. Power has to be exercised. We can't exercise it in Parliament because we don't have a majority in Parliament right now, but we can exercise it on the streets of Glasgow, and that's what we must do. We must do it from today onwards. That's what we have to do, comrades. Thank you very much for your time tonight. Thank you.